First up is Daniel Bonniot from ChemAxon, who's going to talk to us about chemical naming.
Thank you. And I'm going to try to split my attention to the whole room. It's a bit challenged this year, but it's also good that we are not too far from each other. So I'm responsible for all the naming tools at ChemAxon, and I'm going to do just a short presentation about which products we have and some improvements, especially in the last year. Then there will be actually several presentations about naming and also partners and customers presenting what they are doing with it. I would like to start with some example, take some literature of chemistry. Let's take this example. Can you see it? Can you read? So I'll let you. This is some, I guess, inspired by the crisis a few years ago about how labs were lacking some money and what the creative use they made of their chemists. So some interesting things we can see if we are interested in naming here is that we can spot that we have heroin, which is a traditional name or a nickname for this. This is a IUPAC name for this structure. And obviously, if we look from the ChemAxon perspective, how can we help you with this kind of situation? So one of the tools we have is name to structure. So if you are reading this article and you are wondering, what is these things that I see in the document? Well, if you get heroin with name to structure, you can know that this is a structure of heroin. From this name, which is IUPAC name, you should also be able to get the structure. It's quite a challenging name. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. It's a bit long. We don't have time. So name to structure can get you that direction from the name here or there to the structure. Now, if you imagine that you have a lot of cartoons in your database or in your documents, and maybe also patterns and things like that, you will actually see quite similar kind of names in patterns. So also the traditional names or common names, drug names, but also you'll find a lot of IUPAC and systematic names. So you would like to be able to do this automatically and not just type it or copy-paste it. Then we have a product called document to structure, so extracting the names from the document. So it's going to spot that reading this text, this is a name, and so here you see dotted lines, which just meant that it was found inside this free text, and the same for the systematic name. And once you have the structure, you might want to do a lot of things with them. You might want to export it in some format like SMILES or SD file. You might want to put it in a database and a registration system, and I think that's something that using this and the ChemAxon API you will be able to do. And you might have the opposite situation, that you have the structure, and you might want to know how this is called, and we're able to generate either traditional name or a systematic name for this structure. So now going to some more details about what we have been doing in the recent, so in the last year, for structure to name first, well, this product has been out for a couple of years, and so we are adding some new features. For instance, here you can see that isotopes are now recognized or supported since 5.4. So these are two examples of isotope of hydrogen or carbon. Here, this is some advanced stereochemistry, which now is recognized in Marvin and also generated in the names. We also support with every new release, we support more traditional names. So when you choose this option, for instance, heroin, I check that it's known. So we have a growing dictionary of traditional names. We also made some very significant speed improvements. Since 5.4.0, there was a big improvement, so it was twice faster for generating the names. And lots of small fixes continuously, so every release there are some changes. There have been even bigger changes in name to structure. So continuously we work on both things, the coverage, so how much of the names we actually understand, and the correction, so when we generate something, is it actually the correct structure? Both 5.4 and 5.5 5.5 had very significant changes internally, and you could see this in the results. Coverage is increasing. You will see numbers right afterwards, and correction even more significantly. So this is an example of depending on the kind of names that you use, you will see very different results in terms of coverage and correction. Also because any large set of names will have mistakes in the data from the beginning. So you basically can never get to 100%. But here, so you can see that in these data sets, these are 3 versions, 5.3, which was 1 year ago, and 5.4 was released in November last year, and 5.5 is just a few weeks ago. And so here, this is a coverage, and you can see that it's going up significantly, basically regularly every release. And here, this is actually I wrote differences. Initially, it was errors, but as I said, that because in the database there are some names once you have twice the same name associated to different structures. So obviously, we cannot get both right because there are some mistakes. But still, the software can improve a lot, and you can see that in both versions there was very significant. So basically, halving twice the number of structures which were different from what they were expected to be. Obviously, that's taking into account that the structure could be represented in different ways. So we try to detect this automatically. But so I encourage you to upgrade to the latest version 5.5 and see for yourself the results. So the last product we have is document to structure. So extracting the names from text documents. It gives you the name as it appears in the text. It also gives you a cleaned up version of the name, because one of the things we try to do is to fix errors, either just some extra spaces or characters that were recognized wrong by OCR software. Like this is an example of a name that occurred. So here you see that instead of methyl, you have RN. So that's typically the kind of errors that the OCR software can make. Here you have L instead of a 1. And then this is very tricky that you have, in the middle of the name, you have a cut with a dash and then a space and maybe a return character. This is a name that we can automatically find a structure for it, and we can say that this is actually the name that should be there. Since 5.4, we can also work not only on text documents and XML, HTML documents, but also on PDF documents. And we are going to extend this to also Word and Excel documents in the future. That's still something that we plan to do. So just to summarize, so we made incremental improvements in structure to name, and even bigger improvements in name to structure, both in coverage and especially correction. And the document to structure, well, because it's using internally name to structure, is also improving in coverage and correction. Also, the OCR correction is changing, and then the document format with PDF, and soon other formats as well. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.